reading a book here called Blah, Blah, Blah. Our next guest wrote it. He says we're drowning in verbiage, from misleading verbiage to misused verbiage to the unintelligible verbiage. When it comes to our political dialogue, anyway. Our words just are not working. So, as we get official word that the sewer committee will be a failure, our next guest has decided to reframe our understanding of some of the biggest issues we have in this country, using pictures as words appear to be coming up short. Joining us now, Dan Rome, you see him right there in front of you, master of show, don't tell, right. Best-selling author, out with a new book, Blah, 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 What to Do When Words Don't Work, and we seem to have failed with words at the super committee, Dan.
Oh, we certainly did.
And so let us go straight to the pictures.
Well, you know, Dylan, I'm a big believer that we talk so much that we're actually forgetting how to think. So the solution is to talk a little bit less and draw a little bit more. So I want to start out because you're going to draw with me as we go through these. You get to pick the red pen or the blue pen.
Okay, hang on.
I'm having a matrix moment, you know. Which one's it going to be?
Sit on your book.
This is rife with all kinds of political meaning, you know.
Okay, all right.
You pick either one.
They're going to be writing about this on the blogs.
Oh, it's the okay. He's got the red pen. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the big
I like to think of myself as a conservative after all.
Well, you did pick. You did pick the Republican pen.
Well, I wouldn't say Republican. I don't think myself.
It's the red state pen.
Don't call me a Republican.
Oh, I would never do that.
But
you do have the red pen. All right, so here's what we're going to do. In order to understand the big picture, we're going to start with some little pictures. And the picture we're going to start with, you were right, is we're going to talk about the super committee, who it turns out, join me on this.
Our hero.
How super were they? Help me out. They were not particularly super. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what the debt debate was really all about. I'm not sure I was that useful there, but you were good. You were good.
It was like therapy for me.
So what I want to do, just set up the big picture. When we're talking about our debt, what do we really mean? Well, as we all know, we've got $15 trillion in federal debt. About 10 trillion of that is in publicly held debt. About 5 trillion of that is in debt that is held exclusively by government.
And 70 trillion in unfunded liabilities.
Would sound good. So how much was our super committee tasked to try to cut from that? 1.2 trillion. Now I know that I've heard you say that it needs to be 4 trillion just to get started. But nevertheless, let's just look at the picture that we were given. That's how much they were supposed to be taken out of that. That was their job. Does that seem like too onerous a task to try to do? That's a pretty small circle.
That's a pretty small percentage. I mean, that's literally taken 8% off of the mark. They're 9% off.
That shouldn't be too bad.
It's not a problem.
All right. Well, let's think about where that debt came from.
Right.
Okay, because the good news is the debt didn't suddenly just accumulate yesterday. So the debt, you know, prior to Reagan, we had about $1 trillion worth of debt. Reagan put in about 1.9 trillion and so on. And of course, with W coming in 6.1 trillion.
Let's be clear about what this is, which is Medicare Part D.
And this is 2 wars. And this is
tax
breaks.
Also the collapse after the financial crisis in housing and unemployment. You see how I'm just drawing lines that go down.
That's perfect. They're all going down.
It's therapeutic for me.
So this is where it came from.
That's right.
All right, so fine. What do we want to talk about? Well, what happened next? Okay, well, I'll remember back in the summer, the debt cap crisis. Because the thing that's also important to remember is as we were looking at that accumulation of debt, you know, they had raised the debt cap 78 times. It was no big deal. All of a sudden this summer they said, no, we're not going to do it. Forcing a compromise. And you know, it was not a very good compromise. So in the end, Obama did get his $900 billion to be able to run the government through February, but only by being able to put together a super committee who by the day after tomorrow had to come up with a plan to lose that 1.2 trillion.
Sure.
Okay, and if they don't...
Which they didn't.
They didn't.
That's the news has come out.
They didn't. They failed.
Didn't happen.
So what was supposed to happen is that there was going to be a congressional debate.
True.
A vote on the 23rd of December. If it went up, then it would go for further.
I got it.
And if it went down, then the cuts start automatically.
Yep.
That's where we are.
Yep. But nobody's dealing with the lack of jobs and collapse in housing that created the huge shortfall from 2008. Nor are they talking about the banking reform, and they're not dealing with any of the underlying problems, Dan.
Of course not. Well, what they're doing, and you've said it 1,000 times before. Let's kick the can down the road. So here are our can kickers.
Okay, good.
Here they are. Here's the 12 of them.
Okay.
You know, and it is a super committee. There are some pretty super smart people in here. You know, we've got people who have been around the block a few times.
He ran for president.
He did. He knows what he's doing.
Sure.
You know, we've got people who know what they're talking about most of the time. Okay, so what do we need to do is we need to get them to agree. They can't agree because these guys won't let anything go. If they can't keep retirement and health without raising taxes, and these people refuse to raise any taxes, no compromise.
No deal.
No deal.
And so the only way to get to a deal, as you see it, is to talk about reforming health, reforming retirement, and reforming the tax code.
And to get them talking to each other again.
I am an awesome student. I get
there you
that.
Got it.
Taxes, retirement, and health.
Perfect.
I'm going to bring you back.
Dylan, all right, wonderful.
That was fantastic.
Thank you.
I look forward
My
to seeing
pleasure.
the occupation, which I know is under there.
It's buried.
Hold on a second. Watch this. I don't mean to that. I'm just... Hang on.